Hello, thanks everybody for joining. Today I'm going to talk about network compliance. And this specifically is how to detect and reverse unauthorized changes in the network. Now, of course, this concept is applicable to plenty of other places. We've got customers using it, for example, with malware detection on user PCs, for instance. So just real quick, a little bit about me. I've been in the industry for over 20 years at this point. 9 of those were at Cisco. Prior to that, ran a data center. And so there's a lot of experience that's gone into making this product. The last 5 years or so that I was at Cisco, spoke at Cisco Live about these technologies, about network management, NetOps in general. But that brought us to network event orchestration. What do I mean by that, right? It's not really efficient, effective with traditional NMS tools where we'd buy a product and we'd install it, we'd get it set up, and now we get emails that tell us things are broken. Great. What am I supposed to do with them? Well, I got to go fix them, right? So I go and I open a change ticket and I make it happen. And that gets kind of old. Instead, we wanted something that could actually give you value, right? That is, let's go ahead and fix it for you. The other part of that is having the experience that I've had and seeing these Fortune 100 companies. I really learned about a redefinition of scale. And so when we set out to build this, we really wanted to lift that bar and of course ended up blowing that bar away. So a lot of the other tools you'll see out there that are log-only solutions, and not even the automation or piece or anything. They tend to be limited around 1 to 300 gigs a day per server or per indexer. And of course, at this point, some of you think this is probably marketing, and that's fine. If you contact us, we are more than happy to prove it to you. On large-scale deployments, we've been able to get peaks of 855,000 events per second, so pretty impressive. Today, we're going to focus on the learn and resolve piece, right? Let me back up. On the learn piece, we're talking about event enrichment, right? So Neo has a capability, if you think in terms of a network management stack, where you've got your network management layer, element management layer, business management, all of that, right? So most NMS tools sit right at that network management layer. And then you'll have something at the top that's a manager of managers that coordinates everything. So we actually sit kind of in between. We can do all of that coordination between multiple disparate systems. So we can go to devices, look things up, go to other APIs, get information. And then now you've got everything you need to know about that affected entity in order to make an intelligent decision, not just this is down and I was told to fix it, so I'm going to go fix it, right? And that's where we get into the resolve, right? So now let's look at resolve. In LogZilla Neo, there are 2 types of resolution paths. One of them is triggers, which is essentially real time, do this thing right now. The other thing is event correlation. This is more time-based. That is, do something after you see that or within this time frame. And I'll give you an example of maybe an interface going down. Well, do we care if it went down for 1 second and came back up? Do we care if it did it 500 times in the last 5 minutes? Do we care if there was a BGP event or a routing event from somewhere else in the network that this is attached to? Those are much more advanced ways to do these types of things. And yes, of course, LogZilla Neo can do that. All right, for today, we're going to focus right on the triggers because we want real time. Okay. So triggers are simply match on X and forward to Y. You can see an example here in the interface where there's a loopback match in the message and one of Cisco's mnemonics for line protocol going up and down. Of course, you can match on whatever you want. LogZilla Neo has probably over 1,000 at this point of what Cisco considers its most actionable events. So plenty of knowledge already in there. The moment you install, it's already got 90% of your things done and you're getting value out of it immediately. So the next step is to forward to Y. So Here we're going to define a script path, but you can see the other options here, right? One is to mark as actionable, and this is an important one. It gives you the ability to set rules to mark things that you don't care about in your company. We all have plenty of those, right? It's the difference of looking at billions of events per day to the 20 or 30 that I care about in my environment, the things that are important to me, or rather my company. The next is obviously send mail should be obvious there. Webhooks allow you to, let's say, open a ticket to a ticketing system or post to a messaging platform like a Slack or something like that, right? We can add notes. Hey, this is Clayton and I'm working on this. Here's the ticket number. Issue a notification. Just put your badge up in the GUI and you'll see that. Click on it and get the messages. But as I mentioned, we're going to talk about executing a script. Now, this is very advantageous. And the way we did this was we didn't devise a new language. We didn't hold you to some language. We allow you to run whatever type of language you want. And this can be a simple shell script or Perl or Python or whatever, as long as it's executable, okay? And that's really important because in every enterprise or any other vertical for that matter, they have their team of people that write scripts that manage the network. Pro tip, most companies run on scripts. Our network engineers on the webinar probably already know that. So there is an underlying element, right? And when you're coming in, you don't want to say, hey, you got to rewrite all your code and scripts that do your things. And that just makes it difficult. And that's not what we're about, right? So instead, we'll just pass it to your current scripts as an environment variable. And you can see all the different types of environment variables that come through here. You'll probably see some familiar ones like a Cisco mnemonic, which we already track by default. But over on the right, you'll see something called user tags. And this is part of our ability to do that data extraction from other sources connecting. And you can actually create user tags like where the device is, who owns it, what the contact number is. All of those things can be passed along as well. And of course, you can filter or do whatever you want with the message itself, okay? The other key thing here, scripts execute immediately. When things go wrong in the network, this is vital, right? You don't want to wait for things to be indexed. So let's say that you normally ingest, I don't know, 10 terabytes a day of events, and all of a sudden it spikes up to 15. Well, your infrastructure wasn't built for that. Now, in LogZilla Neo's case, it's not going to be a problem for us, but architecturally speaking, we wanted to make sure that these always executed immediately. Reason being, if something's gone down and it needs to get repaired, if it's a security event and you know, something like the PCs with malware, we want to shut that out right away. So don't wait. The next thing is, how do we detect and reverse unauthorized changes? Well, first we start by asking some questions. And as an engineer, that's what I'm going to do. You know, when I think about an event that comes in that says, hey, I see this thing happen, I'm sitting in a knock. Who did that? Was it somebody on my engineering team? Were they supposed to? Was there a ticket? Do we have change controls? Should we tell somebody? Should I tell somebody? Should I open a ticket? All of those things. So Neo has this capability to collect all of that and create this virtual pool of knowledge to draw everything from. And that gives a lot more power into that decision-making process. And even if you don't do the full automation of go fix it, you still have everything you could know about it in order for you to make that right decision. Next thing I do when I look at this, my engineering brain says, what steps should I take to do that, right? And from there, I go, well, LogZilla Neo has somebody, and we always call him, we always say, what would Rexler do? Rexler is our buddy that hangs out at trade shows and happens to also be real good at NetOps. So hopefully that's the case. The problem is Rexler's got teeny arms, so we kind of built this for him, right? He couldn't type as well. He can't do it as quick, and he can't bring those things up. We just felt bad for him. All right, so let's talk about compliance management, shall we? As I mentioned before, it's kind of a nebulous term, but whatever the case may be, it's going to be due to change. 70% of all outages, I think that was the last one according to Gartner, is due to change, right? When we see that, we've got, I think I lost my share here. Yeah, okay, my apologies. Let's get back here. When we see that, there's either panic and something's down, or again, questions abound, right? Knock comes in, things turn red, everybody's going crazy. So let's take the example of a line protocol. Now, there's something worth mentioning here, right? When I see this message, I have no idea what that's from. Is that somebody going home for the end of the day? At the end of the day, is that a data center WAN interface? No idea, right? As I mentioned before, we have the ability to put all that metadata in there so that you could even see this message, do nothing else, and still know every single thing about that event as it came in, right? Now, in Rexler's case, he told us that we're going to ask first if this is an actionable event. If it's not, fine, we don't need to take any action, right? If it is, let's trigger on that match that we've indicated before. And then we're going to check our change management server. Now, for you guys out there that have networks where you get to be cowboys and don't have change management, cool. You just skip that step. Is this an authorized change? Yes, of course, we take no action, but no, we move to the next step, right? These are just the thought process of me or Rexler or you going through this, right? And we check our gold standard configs. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, it's simply a bunch of configuration files for your switches, routers, devices, whatever, that says, here's the device, here are the interfaces, they have to have this configuration on them, here's the access list, all that stuff, right? And they're stored, in text files or databases or CMDB or something to that extent. Next thing we do is say, does it match our gold standard, right? We have our file, we know our gold standard. Does it match? And if not, guess what we're going to do? Again, this isn't part of the automation. This is just me thinking through it. Next thing I would do is go to the device and fix it. Even though it's outside of a change window, this is a change that is unauthorized and needs to be put back. Okay. And then finally, who do we tell? We need to let somebody know, don't we? So we're going to notify the engineering team. Now, I think I may have mentioned this earlier, but in my career, I got really, really tired of running network operations centers where I get emails, okay? The problem is we get hundreds of those a day, many of them false positives. So we're just gonna put them in a folder that we never look at, and something's been screaming that wasn't a false positive, and now somebody's gonna be in trouble, or there's gonna be one of those day-long meetings where you're in a room with management trying to fix everything, right? Nobody likes to do that. So instead, we utilize Slack a lot. This is a very easy platform, but you can also put, formatted stuff in there. So you can see, hey, LogZilla's gone and send us a message to our engineering team that says, hey, there's a threshold violation, loop back zeros down. But right after that, immediately after that, you're going to get another message that says, you know what? You told me to fix it. I have the knowledge, I have the ability to do it, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. Now, you could have just as well added a button in here if you were in last week's webinar on how to catch a thief. That was for stolen devices, but notifying police, right? That customer wanted a button here to have the final say of, should I notify the police? So you just put that in there, and then the process continued on. All right, so this entire process, even though it took me 5 minutes to explain, in LogZilla Neoland, it's very, very quick, right? So with that, I will go ahead and show you. All right. Okay. Now this is LogZilla Neo's one of the default dashboards. You'll see a list of some of the defaults that come in. Creating a new dashboard, absolute cake. Just name your dashboard, and put the widgets on it that you want. Right. So I'll put a top host widget and top Cisco impacting events, but these are easily editable as well. Let's say I don't want top host, I want top Cisco or whatever. I'll drop this field down, and you can see the user tags that I mentioned earlier. All of these get tracked as well. So I've got all of this metadata in here that I can also track on. Maybe I want top Cisco events with the word failed in them. So I'll just do that, and now we have those events. Okay, very, very easy. Dashboards are done on a per user basis. Everybody gets their own view, their own look. And the admin, of course, can have dashboards that get shared as well. So there are role-based access controls built in here for all of that. All right, so we're going to take a look at one of the default dashboards for network operations events. And there's a lot of just, normal kind of what we would see every day here. I know everybody's plagued by duplex mismatch. Funny thing about that is that's one of the chattiest things. Definitely easy to fix. Maybe the only issue would be change control, but again, you can just put a button like in Slack or whatever and says go fix it, or wait till Friday night and then kick it off. Your call, right? But we'll see things here coming in, and for now, we're going to go ahead and find one of our lab boxes and check that guy out and see if we have the wrong stuff filtered here. Let's try it again. Okay, so now we have all the events for that device. You'll notice, first of all, in the results, there are things that are context sensitive. If this were an external IP, you'd also have a geo IP option. Look up here. For Cisco events, we have about 60,000 of Cisco's recommended actions for them. This is a pretty typical one, but some are very useful. And the whole point is to make it faster and easier for you, so you don't have to go out, look it up, Google it, things like that. But in this case, we're just going to go right to this switch. And of course, I'm doing this in the browser. This is all HTML5. No client to download, so it's nice because you can do this from your phone or tablet, whatever you need to do, assuming you have access and assuming you're not a cowboy that wants to change things, right? I'm going to turn the terminal monitor on so we can see the events. I'm going to go to loopback 0 and learn how to type. And I'm going to shut it off because I am a crazy little T-Rex dinosaur that just likes to do those things. In a second, you'll see line protocol go down. Not even a second after that, you're going to see it come back up, and you'll see that log in there, a sysconfig change, and it's already happened, right? So it's fun that we get to talk for 10 minutes, and then the whole demo takes 1 second. But it wouldn't be much of a webinar if it were a 5 or 10 second webinar, right? But you'll look over here in the Slack channel, and you're going to see those messages that you saw earlier in the presentation. And this just happened 1:48 p.m. Line protocol went down and came right back up. So it's not just, hey, it went down and it broke, go fix it. It's, this happened, I fixed it, relax, we got this. And I think that puts us right about 20 minutes. So we're good to go.